It always starts the same way. She looks at you, and for a moment you believe she sees you. Not just the surface, not just the smile or the posture, but the soul beneath. There's something in her eyes. Curiosity, maybe. Admiration. A glimmer of hope. Or is it hunger? You can't tell, but it doesn't matter. It feels good to be seen, to be desired. You tell yourself this time is different. She sees the real you, but she doesn't. What she sees is not a man, but a canvas. Blank, ready, available to be painted by her imagination. She's not looking at you, she's scanning you, measuring your potential, weighing the fantasy against the flesh. You feel chosen, but what you really are is being cast. She doesn't love you. She loves what you might become. And that's the first lie you willingly believe. The beginning of the story you're about to be written into, one you didn't write, one you don't control. Carl Jung understood this pattern long before you ever stumbled into it. He didn't write self-help books. He didn't craft feel-good mantras or trendy slogans. He was a surgeon of the soul, a man who spent decades mapping the architecture of the unconscious. And in that exploration, he discovered a brutal, unsettling truth. Women, Jung said, don't fall in love with men. Not at first. They fall in love with their idea of a man, a projection, a character constructed from childhood stories, teenage daydreams, romantic comedies, wounds, fears, fantasies. You don't know it. But when she looks at you, she's not seeing you. She's seeing something that lives inside her, something she's carried her entire life. And you? You just happen to fit the outline. For now. This psychological phantom Jung named the animus, the inner masculine force that lives inside every woman's psyche. But here's the part most men will never understand. When this animus is immature, when it's not integrated, not examined, not made conscious, it becomes tyrannical. It becomes a hidden director behind her choices. It drives her to love shadows and chase storms, to reject the calm in favor of chaos, to moralize without reflection, to punish without clarity, to demand love, but sabotage intimacy. And worst of all, she doesn't even know she's doing it. You think you're different. You think she chose you for who you are. But really, she cast you in a role she's been rehearsing since before she knew what desire meant. And when you stop fitting the part, when your flaws begin to show, when your depth no longer aligns with her script, she doesn't rewrite the story. She just changes the actor. And you? You're left wondering what went wrong, why she pulled away, why the warmth turned cold, why the promises turned into silence. But the answer is as simple as it is devastating. You stopped being the fantasy. You became real, and she wasn't in love with real. Jung said the only way out of this tragic theater is through individuation, a long, painful journey of becoming whole, of facing the parts of yourself you've buried, your fears, your shame, your weakness, and integrating them into a conscious identity, an identity no longer shaped by what others expect, no longer bent by the hope of being chosen. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most men never even begin that journey, because you've been trained since birth to seek approval, to be pleasing, to be useful, to find your worth in her eyes. And as long as you do, you'll keep playing the same role, over and over, until you forget there was ever a real man beneath the mask. Individuation isn't pretty. It's not sexy. It's not a trend you can follow on social media. It's brutal. It will break you. It will isolate you. It will demand you stand in front of the mirror and confront everything you've hidden. The cowardice, the neediness, the parts of you that waited your whole life for someone else to validate your existence. You will have to kill the boy who wanted to be loved, and in his place, summon the man who does not beg for affection, but commands respect. Not through force, not through manipulation, but through presence, through awareness, through a refusal to be anything less than your full self. Because here's what Jung knew that most modern men never learn. You don't become a man by being desired. You don't become a man by being validated. You don't become a man because she picked you out of the crowd. You become a man the moment you choose yourself, the moment you decide to stop auditioning. The moment you stop asking, "What does she want?" and begin asking, "Who the hell am I?" Because a man who has faced his unconscious, who has made peace with his shadow, cannot be seduced by projections. He cannot be manipulated by flattery or threatened by abandonment. He does not chase love. He embodies it. He doesn't wait to be picked. He builds a life so rich, so grounded, so undeniable that no fantasy could ever compete with his reality. And that's when everything changes. Not because she finally sees you, but because you finally see yourself. But let's go even deeper. The greatest tragedy of modern masculinity isn't rejection. It's self-erasure. It's men molding themselves into shapes they think will be acceptable. Softer, gentler, more agreeable, less threatening. You call it maturity. You call it growth. But Jung called it what it truly is: self-betrayal. And it runs deep. It runs through the relationships you hold on to, long past their expiration date. It runs through the apologies you give for simply having boundaries. It runs through the silence you maintain just to keep the peace. You bend, you adapt, you perform, until there's nothing left but the mask. And women? They sense this. On a level so primal, so instinctual, it bypasses logic. They feel the emptiness behind your eyes, the fear behind your kindness, the desperation behind your devotion. And what you thought would make you lovable, your predictability, your availability, your obedience, becomes the very reason she loses interest. Because the feminine is not drawn to comfort. It is drawn to mystery, to presence, to depth. And when you make yourself fully known without holding anything back, without backbone, without sacred boundaries, you don't become more attractive. You become invisible, replaceable, forgettable. And yet, here's the paradox that keeps so many men trapped. You fear being alone more than you fear being fake. You would rather betray yourself than risk her disapproval. You would rather play a role than risk walking off the stage altogether. But Jung warned, until a man faces the void, until he embraces the terrifying silence of solitude, he will never be free. He wrote that individuation requires a kind of death before death, a burning of the false self, a funeral for the man you pretended to be. Only then can something real emerge. But be warned, this path is lonely. It will cost you everything you thought mattered. You will see things you can't unsee. You will recognize the games people play, the masks they wear, the lies they live in just to feel safe. And when you speak the truth, they will mock you. They will call you arrogant, cold, too serious. They will say you're the problem. But you're not the problem. You're the mirror. And nothing is more terrifying than a mirror that refuses to lie. Jung spent his life studying people who were terrified to meet their own eyes. Men who gave their power away. Women who projected their pain instead of facing it. And in his quiet, clinical way, he told the world something it still hasn't fully heard. The only salvation lies within. And the only love that can heal is the love that begins with the self. Fierce, whole, unshakable. Until then, you will remain a puppet in someone else's story, a character in someone else's play. And when the curtain falls, you'll wonder if you ever really existed at all.